In terms of the world that was the Lord of the Rings, from a realisation point of view, one of the solutions that you came up with was using large-scale miniatures or bigatures. That's something that you haven't done this time. Is that because of the stereo and the way that it was filmed, or was it literally that digital environments are so much better these days?
It's a little bit of both, but what really drove that was the stereo. Because we know that in shooting stereo, you really have to lock down what your cameras want to be. And we tend to like to keep our shots flexible until all the elements come together and we know exactly what we want. So when you're shooting miniatures in 2 dimensions, as we did on Rings, if you make a change to the camera, you can usually cut and paste the miniature elements around and still make them fit the new camera. That doesn't work in stereo any longer. So for the reasons of wanting that flexibility, we wanted to create everything digitally. That way we can make everything be open right until the very last minute. Now, having said that, that means we need to drive the fidelity of the models, the realism of the texturing and the geometry and the lighting, so that it looks at least as good as you would expect to see with a miniature, or ideally how something would look if it were full scale for real.
Because in the Lord of the Rings films, there were some magnificent matte paintings. I mean, just breathtaking. It must have been kind of fun, because in this film, it feels like there's a bit more camera movement around some of those environments, and obviously they're now 3-dimensional because of stereo. So it must have been fun to actually sort of bring some of those to life, because we know the locations, but we haven't seen them like this before.
It has, and what we've done is adapted matte painting to be able to work with stereo as well. We use a technique called 2.5D now, where we still build geometry for things like mountains and landscapes, just in a very rough form. The matte painters are able to project their paintings onto the geometry so that there is a bit of movement as the cameras move around. So you still see stereo.
And you've got such a strong team now in your animation department, especially in terms of digital doubles. That's, I guess, opened up a wealth of extra opportunities, because there are points now where seemingly we're moving between digital doubles and live action actors, though it's very hard to tell on screen.
That's right. That again comes out of the fact that you're doing all these things in stereo. And so if you have something that in the past you would have been able to maybe shoot an actor for and cheat some of their movement, like say someone needed to fall a little farther than was physically possible. In the past, you could have taken that image and sort of nudged it across the frame a little bit more to make it look like it's a bigger fall, than it really was. Can't do that in stereo anymore. So because the perspective is really apparent, so what you have to do now is turn that person into a digital double. So you might start with the actor, and then as they're going through this incredible stunt, you hand over to a digital double, and hopefully you can't see the point where that transitions. Sometimes the whole shot is that way, and it's a digital double just from the beginning.
Yeah, it seems to me that when we spoke years ago around that time of Lord of the Rings, there was the advent of subsurface scattering, and certainly Gollum was a huge milestone in that area. Of course, Weta's developed a lot more techniques since then. Are you comfortable now with the realism that you're getting on screen? Are you still niggled by it, or do you feel that those digital doubles and digital actors, because it seems to have come so far?
It has come far. As you mentioned, Gollum was the first character that we used subsurface scattering for. That technique was developed for Gollum. We've learned a lot more since then. It's one of the extra levels of realism that goes into Gollum and goes into all the digital doubles. It's getting the finer and finer detail that we still have not really matched what happens in the real world with human skin and with human faces. So we still think we can get better.